So hi, this is Kathy at the third chapter, and I'm here today with Carrie, and very happy to welcome her today. For us, we do a lot of webinars all the time, but they're usually private. And so today I'm really happy to have one that we're sharing with more people out there.
Okay.
And Carrie, I met at a birthday party for a mutual friend about 6 or 7 years ago almost. And we have been Facebook pals for a long time. Yep. And then she joined my declutter group, was a master declutterer, I must say. And so we've gotten to know each other, and I keep learning new things from you, and really just appreciate all the neat things that you've exposed me to in my life. So thank you. She also is responsible for painting this gorgeous accent wall behind us.
Yeah, I felt like I had to dress to match the wall, the famous wall.
Yes, and we've kind of dressed to match each other a little. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Carrie and the way to remember to pronounce my last name is C-ure is cure, so rhymes with cure. So I guess I should have covered that before we got on air.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay.
Then everybody knows.
Now that we have that
repeat my error.
straightened out. I'm a happy Portlander. I've been here for about 23 years. I have one son who just went off to college, so I have recently got a lot of time on my hands, and I'm a practicing Buddhist. I'm very active with my local Buddhist community. And I'm also a serial entrepreneur, starting from the age of about 13 when I ran my own babysitting business and put flyers in people's mailboxes.
Oh, cute.
And had more business than I could handle. That's how it all started, and did a stint in restaurants and just found I had a knack for running businesses. I had my own yoga teaching business long before yoga was popular. And so these days, I make my living being a freelance writer and editor. I work with small businesses. I also do coaching. My specialty is spiritual coaching. I like to help people find the sacred in their lives and help them develop self-confidence through listening to their own intuition. And in all of this autobiography, what you're not finding is I've never been a financial planner. In fact, finance, economics, budgeting, it's all the furthest thing from anything I've ever been interested in, even though I did work for a short time for a mortgage broker, but I did marketing for them. So I have come to this completely on my own out of necessity and need, and because it's been a weak point and I wanted to improve myself. And so that's really how I came to be sitting here talking to you about finance.
And earlier in the year, I was talking about budgeting, and I have used Quicken for my budgets. And you mentioned at that time that you used YNAB, which we'll get into in a little bit. So we early on talked about it. And then I know that you've recently been to a full 2-day weekend class that was all about finances. Here again, somewhat from a different perspective. Can you share with us what that class was about and what their approach even was about?
Yes. So to tell you about this short 2-day course I took recently, I really have to go back to the beginning. Years ago, 15 years ago now, I met a financial planner. She became my money manager. And the funny part is she later fired me because I really was so terrible at earning and saving money. Yes, This is really a true story. We're good friends. It's all good, but it kind of woke me up. I just didn't make it into that echelon of people who had enough money to manage. So she couldn't really help me any further. Long story short, and her name is Luna Jaffe, and she has a program called Wild Money. She wrote a book, and long story short, she asked me to be in the initial prototype class, which I ended up taking twice. And so my whole complete money story is featured in Wild Money. So more information than anybody should ever reveal. Well, it's all in there under a pseudonym. So along with my art, my drawings. So that experience led me to really take a look at the emotional aspects behind my money issues, which tended to be chaos and just not making enough money and not being very organized about it and hating doing budgeting and all those things. So when Luna decided to expand her Wild Money empire, I guess you'd say, to this new project that she's doing, it's going to be here in Portland. It's called Sacred Money Studios. And she was looking for financial coaches. So I signed on to be trained to be one of her financial coaches. So this project will be coming soon in spring of 2016, hopefully. And if you stay tuned to me and Kathy, stay on our lists, you'll be able to find out more about that. So I'm actually being trained to coach folks on YNAB. And YNAB, why YNAB? Because it's such a cool system.
Can you say what that stands for?
It stands for You Need a Budget. So it's literally the letters YNAB. You need a budget. And Luna is a very successful financial planner. She has really wonderful clients. Everyone has this, who works with her, has this approach that, you know, I want to have a different approach to my money. I really want to use money to express my values. I don't want to do it the way everybody does it just because a financial planner says I should be doing A, B, and C with my money. I want it to reflect my money decisions. I want to reflect my lifestyle and my values.
And I think people more and more are wanting that these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and especially post Great Recession, a lot of people had a lot of time on their hands to sit around and think about how they wanted to express themselves with their money, what it meant to have money, what it meant to feel rich, what it meant to feel poor. All of these things got put in the hopper, and now we have many more resources out there. So that's what YNAB is. It's a different approach.
Yeah, got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll just share a short little story as an interim thing, is that I had consulted with Carrie when I wanted to paint my wall in my office, which used to be sort of a oatmeal
beige
color. Yeah. Well, I'll call it oatmeal. It's kind of more romantic than beige. So Carrie came over and helped me with that. And then you were just messaging me, and I didn't know that much about what you were doing, but you said you're going to a financial class.
Yes.
And I said, oh, I must share this book with you. And so I had taken a picture of a book I'd seen in New Renaissance Bookstore, which was Wild Money.
Yes.
And even though I didn't hear her name or the title or anything, I just felt that energy and felt compelled to send you that money. At that moment in time, you said that you kind of had wanted to take the course, but you weren't sure if you had enough money. But then you found the check from doing this job here that allowed you to take that course. So it's like a little cycle.
Yeah. Well, the other funny thing is, so yeah, it was very funny when you mentioned Wild Money. I was like, oh yes, been there, done that. But one of the things that happened while I was taking Luna's Wild Money class is that she did this exercise where you were envisioning and then you were putting it on a spreadsheet. And so it was a great way to use computer tools, but also your envisioning and your emotional side. And she's very big in bringing those two things together. Good. And she used as an example $8,000 seed money in the spreadsheet of starting a business. And I said to myself, I want $8,000 in seed money to start my business. And lo and behold, within 3 months, I got a grant. And that's exactly how much money I got, was $8,000.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's great.
So, money can be fun. It doesn't, the main takeaway for today is going to be that money doesn't have to be a drudge, a dread. I mean, if that's how you approach it and you're okay with that, that's fine. But if you're like me and you find thinking about money is really scary, or it's a chore, or it's deadens your creativity, I'm here to tell you that you can break through that and find a way to make money fun.
Great.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your relationship with finances and money. You've touched on it, but I just, we all have our own story about this. So I'd be curious to hear yours before we dig into some other stuff.
So really, the first part of my adult life was an exercise in really not thinking about it. I'm not going to worry about that. I have enough. I'm not going to think about the future. I'll figure it out later. Kind of like that. And paired that with the first part of my working life. I worked in a restaurant and I lived on cash. And if I had cash in my wallet, I spent it. And if I didn't, I just didn't. And it was a kind of a very organic way of budgeting. And so I didn't really, if I wanted to save something, I would put a few dollars under my mattress until I had enough for whatever it was I wanted. Other than that, I really didn't have a sophisticated system. So later on, I got married, and things got a little more complicated, and mortgages, and my son came along. And then fast forward to I guess it's now 2001. I found myself divorced without any real career and a 3-year-old son, single mother of a 3-year-old son.
Wow.
So I had to kind of scramble and get my act together, which I did. I got a good job. I made some steady income. And then I started to really be interested, and I got a book that had some budgeting worksheets that you could use, and I religiously filled it in with pencil. Each month had its own spread, sheet, and you could fill in every single item that you spent. And It was a lot of work, but it was a really fruitful time. I owned my own home. I, made a great profit on that home, and everything was great. Eventually, it just bored me to tears, and I dropped off. And then things got a little chaotic. I lost my job in the recession, and I had to scramble. And so I began looking for other ways to find my way. And everybody recommended QuickBooks and Quicken and these things. And I really tried. I even hired bookkeepers to help me, and they just gave up and threw up their hands. I don't know if I just was too bored or
okay. I'll be curious today as the Quicken gal and you're the YNAB gal to see if you can convert me I mean, not that you're here to convert me, but just to help me see what it has to offer.
Yeah, part of it was that I couldn't get over the data entry, writing everything in my check register, but then also putting, and also having online banking, and then also entering it into the QuickBooks, and then having my personal and my business. It was so much work. I felt like I didn't have, and I didn't really have enough going on to hire a bookkeeper. So I was kind of in one of those in-between places. And so it really, I just wasn't religious about it. I wasn't disciplined about it.
Okay.
So anyway, so I would say my relationship with money has been a very off and on love affair. And a love-hate too.
Well, and I think we often tend to inherit a relationship that possibly our parents had.
Yes.
Or occasionally people can do they were so messed up, I'm going to do the opposite of my parents, just like in any part of life. And the other thing is we don't tend to have much education. And I'm thinking all the way through grade school, I did have a business class where we just brushed upon checking accounts or managing your money. Now, back then, we didn't even have credit cards, which then certainly changed the entire game of how easily people spent money.
Right.
And often sometimes money that they didn't have just because of the card being easy. So I think it's always good just to look back and see, like, when did we first become aware of money and what that relationship was like and how has it transitioned over time. So.
Yes, it's true. Our education around money in this country is really, really sorely lacking. And my parents certainly didn't educate me. And, the good news is that I had my first job when I was 13, and I was always very independent. And so I always had to fend for myself and manage my money. But later on, when things got complicated and I didn't keep up with it, I always felt overwhelmed by the task.
Okay.
Like there were so many moving parts. So that is, that's what really led me to want to find something else, something to
Okay.
do.
So when did you start budgeting and how did you make that transition? And, sometimes maybe it was something that you started and stuck with, or
So really
occasionally-
the first time I started budgeting using a book, and the pre-formed, kind of like, this was before my relationship, using QuickBooks or one of those online things. It was literally just a notebook, and I would write everything in a ledger style. And that, I don't know, I don't remember why I stopped, but things got chaotic after that. And so after that, it was really looking for online tools that I could use. And the transition point came when my husband and I got married. So we've been married 4 years. And we needed a system. We had very different views on how to look at everything, and we needed a system to bring us together. And especially now that we don't have checkbooks anymore and we just use cards, we needed a way to track who was spending what. And that's how we found YNAB. I found it online somehow. I don't remember how.
Okay.
And so we've had it for about 3 or 4 years, and we've had to start over like 3 or 4 times,
Okay.
but each time we've learned, and now we're pretty much on a steady path with it.
Cool. And
Yeah.
maybe you'll be able to share some of those things that you
Yeah.
learned with
Sure.
us too. What do you recommend for budgeting and why, NAB? I mean, you've talked a little bit about this, but tell us more about what it does or why you picked it, perhaps.
So, and any of you who are watching right now, if you want to navigate over to the YNAB website, that would be a really good thing to see.
Just type in
Mhm.
YNAB.com.
Yes, you need a budget. YNAB, YNAB.com. And I sound like a salesperson for them. I really just love their product so much. There's so many reasons why. First of all, unlike a lot of online platforms that you might subscribe to for various things, this one you only pay once. It's not a monthly fee. And I know even things like QuickBooks, if you do an online version, you're paying a monthly fee. So that's one, maybe not. Some
No, I
are.
just bought the software.
Oh, you just bought the software, right? But if you do the online version, for a lot of platforms, you have to pay every month. And YNAB's different because you just pay once. It's $60, and you can use it on all of your devices for all of your family. And it's completely managed on the cloud. So we actually use it. One of the most advantageous things about it is that it's on my iPhone, and I literally enter the purchases right when I make them, and then I can throw away the receipts. So one of my issues was I would have all of these receipts. I'd save the receipts, save. And then I have so many of them that I would be not really willing or able to enter them all in at the end of the month. And so then I get behind.
Oh yeah, that can be
And I just,
drudgery.
exactly.
Actually.
It was too much of a drudge. So YNAB is very simple to use, very inexpensive, and they have a really different philosophy. So one of the other things I found about budgeting, like on a spreadsheet or something like that, was that no matter what I did, I always felt like I was wrong. Like no matter what I did. So I'd have everything budgeted out, and then the car would break down, and I'd be like, darn, I can't make my budget. I had to use my credit card this month, or whatever. Or, some unexpected thing would happen, or I'd want to buy something and not do something else that I had planned that month. And I always felt like I was cheating. Kind of like when you're dieting and you're like, oh, well, I'll just have that muffin or scone.
Or 2 chocolate chips don't count.
Exactly. And then pretty soon you haven't met your goals. So I didn't ever see budgeting as a goal tool. It was always just a tool that made me feel like I had messed up. And so I would find any excuse not to go back and look at my budget and see where things had gone wrong. So YNAB is a little bit different. What they're doing is they're actually turn that whole thing on its head. And instead, you use it as a planning tool. And they have 4 main rules, and this is really amazing. This kind of just changed my thinking altogether. Well, first of all, their motto is they want you to learn to live on last month's income instead of scrambling. So it's really good for so many of us who
know that anybody has
Yeah,
ever
exactly.
mentioned that before.
Right? So many of us are living paycheck to paycheck. You know, you get your paycheck and you already know what you're going to spend it on.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it seems like, you know, you can never, you know, make it till the end of the week when you get paid, or the end of the month. And so, you know, you'd be prone to use credit cards, and then you think, well, I'll just pay it off. And then it starts to build up and add up.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you find yourself with debt. And then you know, this is what I used to do, that pay down the debt and then start the cycle all over again. So never really feeling like I was on top of things. Well, for YNAB, what you really want to do is you want to budget in categories so that you can plan ahead, and you can call these categories anything you want.
Mhm.
So you can actually have a category for vacation to Europe, and you just, anytime you think of it, budget some $20 in there, and you can watch it grow, and pretty soon when you have your $5,000, you can take that vacation.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really
It's
matter.
like virtual accounts in a sense.
They're all virtual. They're all anything you want to make them, and they're all completely changeable month by month.
Huh.
And the only real way to see how this works is to actually go online and watch their tutorials and really see in action. It's a really beautiful, fun, easy to use interface, and they have tons of tutorials. So, and then pretty soon people like me can go to Sacred Money Studio, and the way that place is envisioned is that a bunch of people working in a room with pie and coffee and talking about how to do things with YNAB on their finances, and you can get coaching right there on the spot. You know, I'm having trouble figuring out how to you know, use this part of the system. So
that's great.
There's plenty of resources. Anyway, back to the 4 rules. So rule number 1 is you give every dollar a job. So when you get that paycheck, you put it in, and right then you go through your budget categories and you allocate every dollar of that paycheck to those categories.
So like 100 for my car and gas, and 300 for groceries,
right?
Yeah.
And you know, mortgage. You know, you put your mortgage in there, your utilities.
Or my cat. Karma needs a budget.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can do, like, you can set it up any way you want. The way we set it up is fixed expenses and variable expenses.
Great.
And then if there are 2 of you, you can have Brian's expenses and Carrie's expenses. You know, or you can have
and you each can see each other.
You can everybody can see everybody, so it's all transparent.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can work on any device, your computer, your tablet, your phone, and it's all done on the cloud, so it automatically syncs every time you enter a transaction.
Just because it's a new concept for me in this way, it kind of reminds me of like a Google Calendar that you share with family or friends, where you can see what each other is doing.
That's exactly it. And all of the files are shared on Dropbox, so they live on the cloud, so that it's updated from wherever you are. So that's the first thing you do. You get your paycheck and you decide together, if you're a couple or just by yourself, you know, what job does each of these dollars get?
Okay.
And you allocate that all till it's all zeroed out. The second rule is save for a rainy day. So
because there's going to be a rainy day.
So
if we haven't learned that yet, that's something.
Exactly. So you actually build into your categories whatever rainy day means to you. You know, car repairs, or maybe you have you know, a tuition bill that's due every quarter, or you know, a vet bill, save up just in case, or you want to save for that vacation. So it's built right into the way that you budget.
Got it.
And you can, in the next month, if something happens and you need to borrow from that, you just do that. You just switch it around. It's completely flexible from month to month. And the closer you get to using all of your dollars in the way that you want to, you begin to start to get ahead of the curve, and pretty soon you notice that you're living, you know, you've already allocated this paycheck, but you have room to spare, and so you're living on, you know, last month's paycheck.
Gradually getting to that.
You're gradually getting,
not overnight,
you know,
unless somebody was better off. Or
well,
whatever.
It depends on how much you want to put into your slush fund or your emergency account, or whatever you want to call it. So rule number 3 is roll with the punches, which means exactly what I just stated. If you are, you know, if you have an emergency come up, you just take from one of your categories and you move things around. So you never have this feeling like you've made a mistake, or that you're a crappy budgeter, or that you don't know what you're doing, or you're just, oh, I can't do this. you feel in complete control of your situation because you decide where you value that money being spent. So
Got it.
it's completely
I know
flexible.
initially in doing a budget, I thought that utilities were a certain amount of money. And in watching that over time, realized they were more than what I had ever been allocating. So it was important to see those real figures. That's the other thing is I don't know if they said anything about how many people do budget, but just from what I know, I suspect that's a pretty low percentage of people who actively really look at where that money is going and how much does it cost to maintain a household or the lifestyle that we're living. You know, we might be living it already, but we don't necessarily know, like, how much does everybody know how much you spend on groceries each month?
Well, what you bring up is the power of observation. And as a Buddhist, I practice meditation and I teach meditation. And one of the things I always say, if you want to relax, don't say, okay, now it's time to relax. No, instead, what you say is observe your breath, because whatever you observe changes. And if you are feeling uptight and you just observe your breath, naturally you will calm down. Whereas if you try to relax, that action will cause more. So it's the same thing with budgeting. So really, budget just means observing your spending. And so when you're observing your spending, you tend to, when you take out that credit card or debit card or that cash out of your wallet, you begin to start to ask yourself, you know, this is what I do. Do I really want to bring one more gadget into my house? Or when I'm on vacation, I was really happy when we just came back from vacation and we didn't buy any souvenirs, not one. Yay!
Most people don't really want those souvenirs.
Exactly.
It becomes a gift sometimes of obligation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and so not only did
people
I not
can stress themselves out at the end of their vacation, though. I've seen that many times. Oh, we got to figure out the aunts and uncles and nieces and
yeah. And not only did I not bring anything back for anybody else who
pictures
didn't want
it.
And experiences. But I didn't bring anything into my home that I will then have a hard time getting rid of. So plus, when I look at my budget, I didn't overspend. I really used my value system, which was I really wanted to spend money on experiences, gas for the car so we could drive wherever we wanted, taking my friends out to eat, whatever. So cool. So whatever we observe really begins to change.
It's an important concept.
And YNAB helps you just observe your finances and really ask yourself, is this really what I want to do with my finances? And that's where the fun comes in too. It's not only freeing, but you can literally because you can change anything at any time and it's just yours. It's not a pre-existing system. It's not pre-existing categories or codes. You can literally call your categories anything that you want. So like we have a category called fun. So
I opened a whole bank account once called my fun account.
Yeah. So sometimes when we're doing our YNAB and my husband will say, should we put this? And I'm like, just fun. What were, maybe it was a cup of coffee and we don't really need to track how many cups of coffee we eat, but we put it in fun because we were just having a good time. We just wanted to be out doing that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Are there ways to reduce expenses without feeling deprived? I think this is an important question. And some of why I ask it is in my life, I do a lot of things that are perceived by others at times as restriction.
Right.
So I go on raw cleanses, and to others, that's all about what they're doing without.
Yeah.
For me, it's about I'm just nourishing, supercharging my body with nutrition. It's not a calorie deprivation thing. It's a whole experience. I also happen to be vegan, so some people think all these things I'm doing without, etc. You say the word budget, and I'm sorry, but restriction comes to mind, and failure. You brought that up before, how it was easy to feel like you couldn't do this because you weren't hitting those categories or whatever. So is there a way that we can do it without feeling deprived?
Yes. What you're talking about in classic coaching terms is called a reframe. And one of the fun things we did at the 2-day class that I just recently did is we did a brainstorming session on what does budget mean to people. And we did a whole one of those big Post-it pages full of words like yuck, boring, I can't afford it, no, you know.
Yeah, a lot of negatives.
Exactly. It was very, very negative. So what we want to begin to do is reframe. And what would you do if you gave every dollar a job and it could have any job you want it to have? That's a complete reframe. Instead of, oh, I have to pay my mortgage. No, I want my money to pay for this beautiful house I live in. So it's really a reframe. And maybe you look at your budget and you realize, I don't want to pay a mortgage. I'd rather, live in my trailer. If that's really what you want to do, then you have the freedom to give your dollars a job. That's completely different from what our culture says. So
yeah, I can feel that when you describe it.
Exactly. So really it's about reframing. And I really feel like once we get out of that mindset of feeling deprived or poor or, oh, I can't, once we have more control of our situation, and you don't have to have a lot of money to do this. The young woman teaching the course just shared her financial world. And I was pretty amazed when I saw, her income. And yet she is a happy, well-adjusted person who doesn't at all feel deprived. She's very much in control of her world. She knows what she can spend. She owns her own home. And it's not about, I really sincerely believe it's not about how much we have,
but how we use it.
And some of us who have a lot feel completely poor.
Right. Or deprived or insecure.
Yep.
Money security and
exactly
has nothing to do with money per se. Yeah.
But hey, if your dream in life is to have, 3 years of your income in the bank in cash, YNAB can help you track that and get you there. So it's whatever we track and observe, we are going to change.
Okay. So I've got a good question for you now.
Yes.
Is there a way that people can do budgets wrong?
Yes, I think the only way to do budgeting wrong is to set up a system that's cumbersome, difficult, and one that you don't like to do.
Because you will stop doing it.
You will eventually stop doing it,
Yes.
or that it stresses you out. So it's all about your mindset. I think the only way that we can do budgeting wrong is by having a bad attitude about it. This is something I have to do. This is something I should do.
Right.
I don't like this. Or if we go at it with an attitude of not liking or feeling deprived, as you said before. So really, I really only like to do budgeting when I'm in a good mood. So I want to put on nice music, be dressed in good clothes, and maybe have my favorite beverage, cup of coffee, glass of wine, whatever that might be. I like YNAB because it looks good, it's nice and neat, and it's upbeat, and all of their tutorials are upbeat. So already it's giving you an edge because you feel good about what you're doing. And even if you're in the red and you're reducing it every month, that can be so exciting. It can be really victorious feeling. So
it's not something I thought about, but in many ways, this feels a little more feminine as an approach to money.
That's interesting. I think there's something to that. Although the man who started YNAB, obviously, is a guy. But he's more of the soft skills kind of guy.
It just has that right brain versus totally left brain.
I'm sure he's
feel to it, what you're describing.
I'm sure he's very balanced because he's obviously very smart. This is a person, he tells his story, and I think there's a book that comes with it too, in where I read his story. But he tells it online as well. He had an aha about how budgeting really, the mindset of budgeting really wasn't helping him get where he wanted to go. So I have a feeling that he tossed that around, and as a really creative person, he realized there was a better way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
than crunching numbers and building spreadsheets and, looking at data. Now, mind you, there's plenty of data. YNAB's great because you can get reports. And so it's all about how you categorize things. So you want to put your categories in there in exactly the same way that you want to see the data. So if it's important for you to know exactly how much you spend on coffee lattes, then you need a category that's coffee lattes.
Mm-hmm.
If it's important, if it doesn't matter to you how much cash, what you spend your cash on, you can just have a category that is cash, and you put a certain amount, budget a certain amount in that, and then whatever
That's
happens
freebie.
with cash
Yeah.
is just cash.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, that makes me crazy. I want to know.
Okay.
I want to know.
I'm the opposite on that one.
I want to know what the cash. I don't. If
I do $80
yeah.
a month for cash.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I
So
do. Yeah.
I want to be a little more accountable because it's really easy for me to spend cash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really set up to help you. But I think you're right. A lot of women will find that this has more heart and soul,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more forgiving. It has more compassion, self-compassion, and it's easier to have those discussions with your family. For instance, I just set my son up with his first YNAB. And so when he comes home for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
it's a way for us, without sharing all of the financial stuff he doesn't need to know about, it's a way for him to see exactly how his college education is being paid for.
Cool.
So we'll set up all the accounts, his trust accounts, and he'll see who's participating in his tuition, how much it costs.
Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm.
And he'll see that he has to be accountable for. Well, he'll be able to understand. Well, what is it that keeps Asher going? How many coffee lattes does he need? What is he? What does a pair of shoes cost, and how many does he need to buy?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things. So
yeah,
it's a real good way to start that conversation with people too.
And I know earlier you were saying something about college students get discount.
I was doing a little research earlier, and I realized, or I saw that they just have this new thing that college students get YNAB free. So you sign up each year for your whole school year, and they can do YNAB free. So
that's good for people to know.
Yeah, it's great. It's also good to know that you buy one copy and everyone in your family can use it. So pretty great deal. And you don't have to renew it. You don't have to worry about new versions coming out and having to repay. It's just one time. I think I should get to the rule 4 before I forget. The 4th rule. So we had rule 1 was give every dollar a job. Rule 2, save for a rainy day. Rule 3, roll with the punches. And rule 4, live on last month's income. And that's really the basis.
I like that a lot.
That's, so instead of looking back like at your budget as a history of what you've done, you're looking forward to what your plans and goals and dreams are. It's forward looking, it's forward looking rather than being a history.
Mm-hmm.
So
you kind of need to track it enough to get a sense of what it is, but then you get to assign it the role and set your goals in there, like you were saying, vacation, and put a little money into that.
And it's really easy to do because the interface has 3 months at a time. So you're looking at your whole world, three columns. So for right now, I have October, November, December. I can see last month,
I thought
current month, and then what's coming in the future. So it gives you that feeling of your budget being a living, breathing, organic, moving system rather than some historical ledger. To me, ledgers are more like, that's in the history books.
Yeah. Cool. So you helped me name this course, and it's Reframing Budgets for Freedom, Flexibility, and Fun.
Yes.
Tell us how you came up with that and how we can make sure that those get injected into our budgets.
Okay. So freedom, let's start, I guess flexibility was first. Flexibility, far from the budget that we normally think of where you have fixed categories and you can't move from that. YNAB moves with you. It moves every dollar that you bring in, you can give a job. And if you change your mind midstream, you just change change that job. It's that easy. So you always know where you are, and it's completely flexible, and you can decide. You can decide midstream. So freedom, really, who doesn't want to be living on last month's income rather than desperately waiting for that check to arrive so you can spend it? I mean, that is probably 99% of the stress that we as Americans feel. I'm sure practically nobody I know feels like they have enough. So if we could just have a little excess in the bank, a little cushion, that gives you a feeling of confidence and freedom to do what it is you want to do. You can take a few more little risks. You can be a little more creative, take time off, go for those jobs and experiences that you wouldn't otherwise do if you felt like it was just paycheck to paycheck. And that's the freedom that comes. So budgeting, really, it's not a straitjacket. It's not a what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, I think of restrictions.
It's not a restriction. It's actually more freedom. The knowledge is freedom. So the planning, the dreaming, that gives you freedom.
Are there
and fun? Did we talked about fun?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think so. I think that was pretty well covered. Like
freedom and fun,
creative names, setting your goals in there.
It has to be fun. It really has to be fun, and there are a lot of ways you can have fun with this tool. Definitely.
Cool. Are there other ways we approach money that might create blocks to having what we want?
Yes, many ways to create blocks. For many years, my block was that I couldn't earn money, that I wasn't, I was a spiritual person, and spiritual people don't earn
it's
money.
It's like bad to have money if you're spiritual.
Exactly. There was either money or spiritual. So, of course, that's a subject of another teaching or talk, but but it does, I think that people do bring those kinds of attitudes. And when we don't know what our attitudes are, we can't overcome the restrictions or boundaries they put on us. So one of the things I like about YNAB is that when you set up your categories, right away you can see right there, right on the computer screen, where it is that your values are. And you can begin to ask yourself questions. Well, why do I pay that? Well, for instance, a good one that came up in my household. So we were paying X amount for a gym membership. And I noticed that of the 3 people in our membership, I was the only one that was going. I'm not saying that to say I'm some super duper disciplined person. It's just
that's the fact.
They were doing other things. My son went off to college. My husband is on his bike. He's not going to the gym. So, I thought, well, we can cut our gym membership in half if we just pay for me.
Okay.
And so right there, but if I didn't know that, if I wasn't looking for that, I wouldn't really have known.
Somehow seeing the numbers,
seeing it right there on paper, I could see. It was like, wait a minute, that's my value. That's not my family's value right now. So I think we can really, the same is true of our beliefs and our attitudes. Maybe have an attitude that, well, I don't deserve to have fun. If you don't have a category for something to, entertainment or fun in your budget, you can see that, maybe being all about being business oriented or work isn't working for you in your life, and that possibly budgeting a little more for fun might prevent you from going off on a spending spree, a guilt-ridden spending spree, for instance.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do right now is to open it up to questions in the group, and I will just lean forward and type this in. Each one of you can type into our chat room. There is a little thing over to the right, and it's like a white bar, and if you look about 2/3 down, you'll see. You can also select and put in Q&A, so I'm going to just type it right now. under this, sorry, ask any questions. Oops, it's very hard to do this like I'm doing. So you'll have to just forgive typos if they're showing up on there. Did that go through? Or not? I don't think it did. I'm going to try again. Okay. Questions by typing them in. Okay. I'll just refresh this screen. Which took my chat away by refreshing it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type those in. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this center. And do we know yet? You said Portland, but do we know where in Portland it's maybe going to be?
So Sacred Money Studio is a joint venture. Luna has some partners, and her financial planning firm, Lunaria, is
cool.
in Multnomah Village.
Okay.
And it's going to be right across the street there in Multnomah Village. So for you local Portlanders watching, look in the spring. They're looking right now to build out the site, the space. And what I know about it is there's going to be couches and easy chairs and pie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Pie.
Pie.
Okay, pie specifically.
Yes, pie.
Not just food, but pie.
Pie.
Okay.
And coaches available to help people with their financial, especially their YNAB. Like anything, I mean, I'll be honest, YNAB is an online platform. It's computer, version of things. And not everybody's totally adept at that. Some people really do feel like they want to just get their pad and pencil out. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve, but there are a lot of resources. They have a really amazing blog. They have tutorials. When you sign up, you get a nine days worth of tutorials that just come right into your email box. And if you watch those, you can pretty well set yourself up. Of course, if anybody watching is and decides to go for it and set themselves up, you can totally email me or call me with any questions. I will help you.
And even if people are watching this on the replay, what I will say is you can type in your questions. They'll get emailed to me, and I can share them with you.
Perfect.
So
I'm happy to help people get started.
Yeah. Okay, we have our first question.
Okay.
This comes from Kathy. I think it's Kathy Davis, my friend.
Hi, Kathy.
There's a lot of Kathys in the world, though, so it might be another Kathy. So does the website show a demo of how the program works? I'll just ask you these one at a time. There's multiple questions. So.
Yeah, there's plenty of resources and demos on there, yeah.
Do you start with your paycheck and then allocate each dollar to your self-determined categories?
Okay, so you actually can load up as many accounts as you want. So you can, you start, and actually starting out, it's really important how you start out. So you want to think it through before you start out.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, you can always start all over and refresh. So as I mentioned, no, you can't break it. That's one of the good things. You can just do a start over, and they keep all of your categories, but you just start with your new numbers and with a new month. Let's say you start like what my husband and I did. We weren't in this flow with it, and so we let it lapse, and it was too hard to catch up. So we just refreshed.
Yeah,
and started
that makes
again.
Sense. Yeah.
Or we moved, and so our categories changed. So we just said, let's just start all over. And so you'll want to you can use all of your accounts. You can do we have a cash account, we have our savings account, our joint account, and then you can have accounts that are off of YNAB, such as maybe my business account is off our personal YNAB. My husband's business account is off his personal, off our joint.
Just a way to allocate the separateness of
But
the
you can
money.
just see it. And then you can also have, if you have debt that you're trying to pay down, you can do pre-YNAB debt, and it'll just show the debt, and then you just allocate the payments. YNAB only cares about the payments. And then you can refresh that debt every once in a while. So there's a lot of flexibility about how you set it up. Okay. And for best use, you'll want to put all of the accounts that you're currently using on there.
Okay.
By the way, it doesn't talk to your bank. So it's not one of those things like Mint where it's trying to call home and reach your bank. That's one of the things I like about it. It's secure. It's not talking to your bank at all. It's only you see it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then our last question, I think you answered to the depth that we can online. It was, can you describe specifics of how you use the program? But pretty much look at the tutorials, set it up in advance. Can't break it.
Can't break it. You set up the categories, super intuitive and user friendly. You type it in. It has little things like when you're putting in numbers, you can do shift plus and add. A little calculator comes up so you can add. So like when I'm adding to when I put my check, since I have my own business, when I put a check in, I want to take out 10% for my savings account. And then I want to take out 25% for my quarterly taxes. So I can just pull up that calculator right there on the program and figure out which number goes in. So it's super easy to use. And there are a lot of fun tricks that you can learn. And they have live sessions. They're all free when you buy it. They have you can go on live webinars like this, where they bring up screens and they show you exactly how to do it and how to set it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have gotten confirmation that this is Kathy Davis. Hi,
Hi
Kathy. And her next question is, how much time do you spend doing YNAB, and is it time consuming? So anything that you could do to just make it more concrete, whether that's showing us or telling us something. Yeah.
So it is it's not that time consuming. It's one of the least time consuming ones I've ever used. So it's all set up and ready to go. So you just rename your categories and put in your numbers. So if you have a relatively good handle on, if you're not like looking through drawers and opening mail to find out what your account statements are, you can just load the numbers in. So it's pretty easy to set up. And then for maintenance, I use it on my phone. And as long as I enter all my transactions right when I do them, it's super easy. And then at the end, you just reconcile it, just like reconciling a checkbook. You click, and you can do it anytime. You don't have to wait till the statement comes in. So I like to do it like once a week, reconcile all of my transactions for the week. And then I don't have to do a month-long number of transactions.
One of the things is that we had gone out to coffee together, and I saw you right after you bought your coffee, just input that money and where it went.
Yes,
type of a thing.
Exactly.
So doing it live as you go instead of saving that wallet.
Exactly. And then I go ahead and throw the receipt away unless it's a tax receipt that I have to go home and scan. But so it cuts down on that kind of paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes to all your devices. So once you do it through the cloud, it updates all your devices.
Okay.
So it's pretty user friendly that way.
Cool.
So I would say I spend a half hour a week or so.
Okay. That's not bad.
No.
And like you said, much easier to do it as you go than to get caught at the end of the year trying to do the year. Obviously that's not productive, or even going 2 months back
it's not fun.
And it sounds like it's a system that you can just start here and keep moving forward.
Yeah. I use it for my business as well. They have a really wonderful, and it comes at the same price. $60 is for everything. So I use it for my business as well. So I have a separate budget for my business.
And I just want to reiterate, you are not a YNAB
I'm not.
salesperson because it does sort of start sounding that way. And I know we mentioned it earlier. Some people might have joined us. It's just a program that you really like.
It's just what I really like to use.
And it sounded like you were using it and Luna was using it as well.
I've been using it. I don't know when she found it. I found it separately from Luna.
Okay,
and then once Luna
thought.
Found it, I think she loved it so much that she started having all of her clients use it. So then she had to hire somebody who's a YNAB support person who helps her clients set up their YNAB. So and that's how she got the idea of having some coaching around it.
Here's a question from my friend Penny.
Okay.
She's out on the coast.
Hi, Penny.
Does the software connect to one's bank accounts to reconcile like Quicken or QuickBooks?
No, I don't think it does. I could be wrong on that. It might.
That's a good one to.
I'm going to have to look that up and get back to you, Penny. Or you can pretty easily Google it. We don't use it that way. So I think actually, I think you can.
Because that's one of the things that I personally happen to like about Quicken is it just sucks all the information in.
Yeah.
And so it would be good for us to know, and we really should share with the whole group, like find out the answer.
Yeah, I'll find out the answer for you. I don't use it that way, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So we'll find out, and we will email it out to this group. See. Oh, so Kathy's saying she might be a little behind the 8 ball. Did you say you'd be willing to teach YNAB to people? So if you could rephrase what.
Yes.
In fact, it's actually probably a good segue to if people wanted to work with you.
Yes.
What would you be able to offer them? Knowing that you're multi-talented with a lot of different things, but
yeah.
What might that look like?
Well, if you have questions, go ahead and email me. I'm happy to answer a few questions. If you actually want coaching, I could definitely do that for you. And we could talk about that offline. So just the way to get in touch with me, I think Kathy's going to put my email address and my website address. She can type those in either now or later. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And
also, I'll be working for Sacred Money Studio when it opens in the spring, and we will have a cadre of YNAB coaches available, I think that on a drop-in basis. So there's plenty of free training as well on YNAB, but if you like individual one-on-one attention, yes, I can definitely do that.
And I apologize for my face getting right in your face, but when I type, the keyboard's quite a bit ahead of me. And it's so far away, I can hardly see it. So I'm proofing it after I send it to you guys. And yeah, I got those both right.
Great.
Both your website and the email there. Okay. Any other questions before we begin to wrap this up? One of the things that I want to say is that right now it's a totally separate thing, but my business is called The Third Chapter. I offer a couple different things. Right now is a 1-week declutter kickstart, and that's available through my website. So you can sign up today, tomorrow, even the next day or later for yourself or friends. If you are anybody who's interested in having more calmness, less clutter around you. That's part of how we got to know each other better. And so that's happening.
Clutter nerds, declutter nerds.
Yes. Life can change in all the different ways, from getting a budget to decluttering, etc. And then I'll also be offering a course that I'm really proud of called My Best Year that will be starting in January. So you can stay in touch with me if you want to know more about that, or we'll also probably just do a follow-up email, I think, to this group.
Okay.
You mentioned also having some resources.
I have some resources, and I'm happy to share them. I have a list of really wonderful financial books, the top 25. The top 25 books on my list. The first one I'm reading is called Sacred Commerce. And it's a really, really great book, but all kinds of.
It's by the folks that opened Cafe Gratitude.
Yeah. So, and it's a list that's not your everyday financial books.
Like The Millionaire Next Door. Is that on the list?
It's The Millionaire Woman Next Door is on the list, I think.
Didn't know there's one now. That's
okay. So it's specifically geared toward women and finances. And also more like sacred finances, right livelihood finances, spiritual values and finances, those kinds of books.
I like that approach.
And I'm also happy to share the information about Luna Jaffe of Wild Money, and all of her resources, and happy to mail that out to people if they contact me. So you can either sign up on the email list on my website or just email me directly. It's
cool.
fine.
And for those of you that have signed up for this, I'll be having that email list, and so will Carrie, so that we can both stay in touch with you from here. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Here again, I've learned a lot from you, from the desire map stuff.
Yep.
to painting my wall to just your approach to life, Carrie. I find it very refreshing and really calming to be around you. And every time I learn something. So
Great.
I
Thanks for having me.
yeah, appreciate you coming to tell us
Sure.
about
My pleasure.
budgets and how to make them more fun, freedom, and flexible.
Great. Stay tuned for more.
So, okay, guys. So we're signing off now, but if you have any last questions, you can email them even after we log off and we'll get your answers back to you. So thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Au revoir.